It started with a letter I wasn't supposed to find. Tucked between the pages of an old travel journal, sealed but never mailed. The return address said Ryan Calloway, 3 years ago. Ryan, my fiancé. The man I thought I knew better than anyone. If you've ever looked at someone and realized, suddenly, that you don't know them at all, you'll understand what came next. Let me take you back to how it all began. It was a rainy afternoon in Chicago, the kind where the sky hangs low and heavy, like it's carrying secrets of its own. I was rummaging through the attic of our shared apartment, looking for some old photos to include in our wedding invitations. Ryan and I had been together for 4 years, and everything felt like it was falling perfectly into place. The venue was a charming little vineyard outside the city, the dress was a vintage lace number I'd fallen in love with at first sight, and the guest list was a mix of our families and friends who'd watched our story unfold. Ryan was always the storyteller in our relationship. We met in an airport lounge during a massive storm delay. I was nursing a lukewarm coffee, buried in a novel about far-off adventures, when he slid into the seat across from me. That book's got you hooked, huh? Ever been to Morocco like the protagonist? His voice was warm, inviting, like a crackling fire on a cold night. I looked up, surprised. Not yet, but it's on my list. You? He grinned, leaning forward. Twice. Once solo, once with a group of misfits I met in a hostel. The markets in Marrakesh. Pure chaos, but the kind that makes you feel alive. We talked for hours, about books, dreams, the places we'd seen and those we hadn't. By the time our flights were called, we'd exchanged numbers, and the rest, as they say, was history. He was the kind of guy who filled every silence with life. Stories about backpacking through Europe after college, the quirky people he'd met in hostels, the sunsets he'd chased in Bali. He made me laugh with tales of mishaps, like the time he got lost in Tokyo and ended up at a sumo wrestling match by accident. Picture this, he'd say over dinner one night early in our relationship, me, jet-lagged and clueless, stumbling into this arena full of giants. I thought I'd wandered into a dream. I'd laugh, leaning into him. And did you stay? Of course. Best accidental adventure ever. We need to go together someday, experience the real Japan, not the tourist traps. And he had this way of looking at me, like I was the next great adventure. Someday, we'll see the northern lights together, he'd say, his hand in mine, planning trips we'd take after the wedding. Our life together was comfortable, predictable in the best way. Mornings started with coffee in bed, weekends were for farmers' markets and lazy brunches. We had inside jokes, shared playlists, and a cat named Whiskers who adopted us from the shelter. One evening, as we sat on the couch planning the honeymoon, he turned to me with that soft smile. You know, meeting you was like finding home after years of wandering. I can't wait to build more stories with you. I kissed him, heart full. Me too, Ryan. Forever starts now. The wedding was just the next chapter, rings, vows, a promise of forever. Invitations sat on the dining table, stamped and ready to go. Everything felt set, solid, unbreakable. Until that day in the attic. The travel journal was dusty, one of Ryan's old ones from his wandering days. I flipped through it absent-mindedly, smiling at his scribbled notes and faded Polaroids. And then, the letter slipped out. Sealed envelope, yellowed with age. The handwriting was his, bold loops and hurried crosses. Addressed to Mara, with no last name, no street. Just, Mara. And on the back, in smaller script, from Ryan Calloway, 3 years ago. I didn't open it right away. My heart pounded as I stared at it, fingers tracing the seal. Who was Mara? A friend? Family? Why hadn't he mentioned her? Curiosity won out, and I carefully peeled it open, telling myself it was probably nothing. But deep down, I knew better. The letter wasn't a love note. It was something far more intimate, far more shattering. His words spilled across the page in that familiar handwriting, but shakier, like his hand had trembled as he wrote. Dear Mara, it began. It's been another year without you, and I still wake up some nights thinking you're just in the next room. I think about that summer constantly, what happened, the choices I made. I can't undo them, and honestly, I wouldn't. If I could go back, I'd still choose her, even if it ruined me. Choose her. Who was her? The letter danced around details, vague apologies and regrets, mentions of that accident and the life we almost had. No specifics, just raw emotion. He ended it with, I hope you're at peace. I'm trying to be. My world tilted. Ryan had never mentioned an ex named Mara. Our conversations about past relationships were light, high school crushes, college flings, nothing serious. He'd said his last real relationship ended amicably years ago, no drama. Everyone has a past, he'd shrug when I'd tease him about old flames. But you're my present and future. That's what matters. But this This was grief, deep and unresolved. And who was the her he chose? That night, I cooked dinner like nothing happened. Pasta with marinara, his favorite. He came home from work, kissed my cheek, and we settled on the couch for our usual sitcom binge. He laughed at the jokes, arm around me, oblivious. But I couldn't stop staring. Who are you? I thought. What secrets are you carrying? As the credits rolled, I tried to act normal. Good episode, right? He chuckled. Yeah, that twist at the end. Classic. You okay? You seem quiet. Just tired, I lied, forcing a smile. Long day. Inside, questions burned. Sleep evaded me. I replayed every moment of our relationship in my head. The way he'd sometimes zone out during conversations about the future, or how he avoided talking about certain parts of his past. Little silences I'd filled with my own assumptions. Once, during a late-night talk about dreams, he'd gone quiet when I mentioned family. What about you? Kids someday? I'd asked. He'd hesitated. Yeah, maybe. Life's unpredictable, you know. I'd laughed it off. That's why we plan, together. But now, those pauses felt like chasms. By morning, the doubt had festered into a wound. Over breakfast, I couldn't hold it in anymore. But instead of confronting, I deflected. I need some space, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Just a few days to clear my head. He looked up from his coffee, eyes searching mine. Space? Is everything okay? Did I do something? I shook my head, grabbing my bag. It's not you. I just need time. He didn't argue, didn't pry. Just nodded, eyes shadowed. Take the time you need, he said softly, his voice cracking slightly. I love you. I love you too, I whispered, but it felt hollow as I walked out the door. I drove away, tears blurring the road, wondering if I'd just shattered everything we'd built. My sister's place was a sanctuary by the coast, a tiny apartment in a sleepy beach town, where the air always smelled of sea salt and fresh brewed coffee. Emily was older, wiser, the one who'd navigated her own heartbreaks. She opened the door with a hug, no questions asked at first. We sat on her balcony, waves crashing below, and I poured it all out, the letter, the confusion, the betrayal I felt even though I couldn't name it. Oh, sweetie, she said, pulling me close. That sounds heavy. Tell me everything. I read her the letter, voice trembling. Who is Mara? And why didn't he tell me? She listened quietly, sipping her tea. You don't need to understand everything to know when something's broken, she said finally, her words hanging in the air like a lifeline. But maybe you do need answers. Have you talked to him? Not yet, I admitted. I'm scared of what I'll hear. She squeezed my hand. Fear's okay, but don't let it steal your voice. You've always been the strong one, use it. That week was a blur of solitude. I walked the beach at dawn, sand cold under my feet, letting the ocean's rhythm soothe my racing thoughts. I didn't text Ryan, didn't check wedding emails, didn't even glance at the dress hanging in our closet back home. Whiskers was with a neighbor, the invitations gathered dust. I journaled instead, pages of questions, anger, sorrow. Who was Mara? What summer? What choices? One evening, as the sun dipped low, Emily joined me on the sand. You're hurting, I see it. But remember that time after my divorce? I thought I'd never trust again. I nodded. You said it felt like drowning. Exactly. But I swam to shore, by facing the waves. Maybe it's time to call him. I can't, I whispered. What if it's over? What if it's not? What if this is just a storm you weather together? Her words echoed, but I held off. On the 8th day, a knock at the door. Emily let him in, giving me a knowing look before retreating to her room. Ryan stood there, looking exhausted, an envelope in his hand. No flowers, no grand gestures. Just him, raw and real. Can we talk? He asked, voice low and pleading. I nodded, heart pounding. We sat on the couch, the envelope between us like a barrier. He took a deep breath. I know you found the letter. I'm sorry you had to discover it that way. Who is Mara? I blurted, tears welling. And why didn't you tell me? He looked down, pain etching his face. Mara was my fiancé. We were together for 2 years, planning our own wedding. 3 years ago, before I met you, she died in a car crash. It was sudden, senseless, a drunk driver on a rainy night. The words hit like waves, knocking the breath from me. Died? Ryan, why hide that? He met my eyes, tears in his. I didn't know how. Every time I tried, the words stuck. It felt like admitting I wasn't whole. Meeting you, it was like breathing again. You made me forget the pain, or at least bury it. But the letter, I pressed, voice breaking. You said you'd choose her even if it ruined you. Who is her? He swallowed hard. Mara had a best friend, Lily. That summer, things were rocky between us. Mara wanted kids, I wasn't ready. We fought, and in my stupidity, I confided in Lily, too much. Nothing happened, but the emotional pull. I chose to step back from Mara to figure it out. She left upset, and that night, the crash. Guilt flooded his features. I'd choose Lily's friendship if it meant saving Mara. No, the her was Mara. I'd choose her all over again, flaws and all, even knowing it ended in ruin. The letter was my grief talking, twisted. I sat stunned, processing. You never healed. You just hid it from me. I thought I had, he whispered. But seeing your face now, I see how wrong I was. I'm so sorry. I love you, more than anything. But I get if that's not enough. We sat in silence, the ocean's roar mirroring my turmoil. He hadn't betrayed me with another woman. He'd betrayed himself by burying his grief. I need time, I said finally. To think. He nodded, handing me the envelope. This is for you, my full story, if you want it. No more secrets. As he left, Emily hugged me. That took courage, for both of you. The truth reframed everything. His silences weren't indifference, they were scars. He hadn't healed, he'd hidden. And I'd built our life on that fragile foundation. We drove back together the next day, but the air was thick with unspoken decisions. Over the following weeks, we talked, really talked, for the first time. No stories to fill the gaps, just honesty. One night, over tea in our apartment, he opened up more. Therapy. I should have gone years ago. But admitting I needed help felt like failure. I reached for his hand. It's not failure. It's strength. We both need it, separately, maybe. He squeezed back. You're right. And the wedding, do we postpone? I shook my head, tears falling. Cancel it. Not because I don't love you, but because we rushed. You need to grieve Mara properly. And I need to know I'm not a replacement. His face crumpled. You were never that. You're my light. But I see now, I dimmed it with my shadows. We canceled the wedding. Calls to vendors, emails to guests, a quiet unraveling of plans. I'm sorry, the florist said sympathetically. Don't be, I replied. It's the right thing. It hurt, like ripping off a bandage, but beneath was space to breathe. Ryan moved into a friend's spare room, giving us both room to heal separately. I found a small apartment downtown, cozy, with big windows overlooking the bustling streets. New furniture, a plush sofa, a desk for writing, plants to nurture. I reclaimed my last name, shedding the future Mrs. Calloway. Mornings became mine, yoga at sunrise, coffee shops with notebooks, rediscovering hobbies I'd set aside. Therapy sessions were raw. You mistook his silence for peace, my therapist noted. But love isn't ignoring cracks, it's mending them. Some days, the missing hit hard. I'd see a couple laughing and think of us. Do you miss him? Emily asked during a visit. Every day, I admitted. But I miss the illusion more, the perfect story. Most days, I reflected on the me I'd lost, the one who believed love conquered all, ignoring cracks. Healing wasn't erasure, it was coexistence. Ryan and I stayed in touch, tentatively. A text started therapy. It's hard, but good. My reply, proud of you. Me too. Last week, the postcard arrived. No sender, just a glossy photo of that same coastal town, waves, cliffs, endless sky. On the back, in neat print, thank you. Was it Ryan? A sign? I didn't know, didn't need to. For the first time, closure wasn't something I chased, it was the life I was living. Free, whole, open to whatever came next. But curiosity lingered. I called him, voice steady. The postcard, was that you? A pause, then softly, yeah. Thank you for seeing me, the real me. And for letting go so I could too. We talked for hours, not as lovers, but as friends healing. Maybe someday, he said. Maybe, I echoed. But for now, this is enough. Sometimes the hardest goodbye isn't to a person, but to the life you thought you'd have with them. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself from the wreckage of someone else's story, this one was for you.